Hi everyone, this is That's Not My Fault.
Meditations for people who hate meditating.
We thought this time we'd show you our lovely faces because we realized we've been naughty.
We've been naughty. So I realized that we have been promising, well, actually, Jessica's been promising things, and we have not been following up on them at all.
I'm full of empty promises.
It's like they never happened.
So the first one is, here are our lovely faces. I'm Jessica.
I'm Diana.
And that's promise number one. I think it's the only one we could deliver on today.
So we promised, one thing we promised was that we were going to have our kids on over winter vacation, and we did not do that. But that was not our fault. We got together with each other, and our kids were there, and nobody wanted to come on. So that's not our fault.
Right. But we can't be held accountable for the actions of our children.
I mean, we raised them badly, obviously, but,
and the other one was, we said we were going to talk about the different color noises. Remember, right?
Color noises. Yeah, Jessica gave me homework. I was supposed to listen to brown noise, green noise, pink noise, white noise.
Well, so I introduced this to my son, and first of all, brown noise went horribly wrong in my house because just the kind of people that I live with.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, we didn't listen to that for very long because it just gave my husband way too much to work with. But then we listened to the green noise and the pink noise. But what did you think?
Okay, honestly, except for the pink noise, which annoyed me because it sounded like the noise that I want to block out when I'm on an airplane.
I didn't say that. I have the same way. I'm like, this stresses me out because I feel like I'm on an airplane.
So yeah, it's like when I'm on an airplane and I'm trying to sleep, and then I have to put on the noise canceling headphones, and then I can't sleep because they're like interfering with the way my head goes down. So yeah, so that was pink noise. Other than that, the rest of it is just white noise.
It basically is. I think green noise is supposed to be something to do with tapping into certain, I don't know the science of it, so if anybody else knows, so we're happy to have you on. Something about anxiety, and something in the noise is supposed to target anxiety and something like that. So it's to help you calm yourself before you sleep. That's the
but I think that any kind of white noise will help if you're the kind of person who can calm down to white noise.
I think so. Yeah. I know that when my niece was born, she was the first baby in the family, they would have like white noise, and she could only sleep with the white noise. And my husband and I did the cardinal rule, like, that you're supposed to never do. Like, we're not going to do that when we have kids because then we got to drag the thing everywhere.
Did you?
Well, we didn't do white noise.
There you go.
But we had to bring John Denver.
Well, John Denver is a lot easier to travel with than a white noise machine.
Yeah, you would think, but you had to go all these special, like, the iPod with the thing, and you always make sure it's charged. So, it's kind of the same deal. But
well, I mean, but now we have the phone, so it's different.
It's very different.
I mean, now your phone is always charged, because otherwise you go into convulsions.
The thing on my phone didn't work. The thing that pings my phone from my watch for about a week, it was driving me insane. It's like the one thing.
I know that's the only reason I wear the Apple Watch is so I can ping my phone, or if I know when my phone is ringing.
Exactly.
So
anyway, that's not what we're talking about.
So, but I mean, if you're the kind of person who likes white noise, I mean, it can be very useful to block out background noises so you can focus on one thing.
It can.
Right? Like, because that's the whole point of meditating, is just finding like that one thing that you're focusing on, whether it's your breath or paddleboarding or shooting or whatever it is.
So whether it be white noise, pink noise, brown noise, or any kind of noise.
Yeah, other than pink noise, which I don't know why anybody would want to listen to that. But but it's all the same. It's all white noise. White noise is just background noise that helps you tune everything else out. So, if pick your favorite color, it's all the same except for pink. And, you can put that on and just use it to just block everything else out and find that single pointed concentration.
People might like that noise. I know
people like the sound that you get on an airplane when you're just trying to have.
When we moved out of the city, we had a noise machine for sleeping purposes. I think it was for my husband, but one of the buttons that you'd push was city noises, and it was just so funny because I was like, I moved out of the city to not get this.
Actually, I could have used that when I moved into the suburbs because I could not sleep the first week. It was too dark. I didn't hear any sirens. It was like the street lamp didn't come light up my room, even though I turned the lights out. It was like dark. Like I couldn't get a nightlight. It was like
the whole thing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So on to our real topic for today.
We're going to talk about, the time like this week when your schedule gets all messed up, particularly this week because weather. But
yeah, so we had a snow day this week. We had a snow day and then a delay the next day. So yesterday, my daughter had a 2-hour delay to start school, and she got out of school 2 hours early.
And then they were off on Monday for the holiday.
Yeah, so it seems like the first full day of school. And of course, I overslept for this one, but yesterday I was up and ready to go at 6.
And we're not quite sure what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know. It's one of those we don't know.
So point is that you really can't be married to a routine right now, because
not just parents. People are gonna say, oh yeah, parents, of course, but
everyone is affected by a snow day, right? Whether you're a student, whether you're a single person, but you have a job to get to. We're all affected by a snow day, and it affects us in different ways. But the main way is that keeps you from traveling, and usually you're stuck in your house. Some of us have to deal with shoveling and salting, which is annoying.
Oh, that was in my marriage contract. Snowplow.
Well, yes, but sometimes my husband is not home, and then I have to deal with it myself. And then, I find that when I have a dusting of snow, I'll have a bunch of people out on my street with shovels who want to be paid to shovel. And then when I have 6 inches of snow, there's nobody. There's no one to be found.
My neighbors, the dad and the son, they shovel the snow, and it's actually really sweet. And my very entitled children were like, I understand. Why don't they just get a snowplow? I'm like, because when Daddy and I got married, it was in our marriage contract that we're going to snowplow. I was like, but really? You
mean a plow or a snowblower?
A snowplow, someone who comes and does it for me.
Oh.
But, it's very nice that they're going out and making a buck. And actually, they did come around earlier when it used to snow. And they used to ask if they could shovel our driveway. So it was kind of already shoveled, but we let them and paid them because, I don't know, it's a very nice thing to do.
Yeah, well, we said no thank you because, we shoveled the 2 inches of snow that we got the other day. And
but
really wasn't.
Our routines get messed up for many reasons. I know yesterday, I don't know why. Well, I know why, but I was sitting in traffic. I didn't know why. It would literally stop. And I'm sitting there, and I knew I wasn't going to get to school on time. So, of course, I finally got in touch with my kids in the school, and I was like, to my son, just, get on the bus because I'm not going to be there in time to take you to, your next activities. After that, it started to move, of course.
Always.
But I had already made the arrangements, but I was very calm about it. I was like, all right, this is just what it is. I might not be going anywhere for 2 hours. I had no idea what was happening. Turns out people had stopped because there was ice falling on the highway from up above, which was actually a smart thing. Otherwise, it would have fell on the rest of us for them not to avoid it. It's not like the police were there. It wasn't like it was being stopped by anybody. It was people who stopped, so nobody else would get this ice to fall on their car.
So scary, though.
It is so scary, and actually, at the end of the day, it was so nice of them because you think about what can happen.
Right.
But I didn't panic. I didn't freak out. The worst case scenario was, my son will be leaving there eventually. We've gotten in touch with someone.
But you know that he's in a safe place.
I knew he was in a safe place, and people were with him. And the car was basically off. So I just sat there and texted and, made light of my situation.
Yeah. So, and it's a good time to practice mindfulness because what else do you have to do, right? So you can pay attention to actually there was one year when, we had an ice storm, and just, the world is so beautiful after that because everything is just coated in ice, in frozen.
It's pretty.
It's so pretty, and every leaf is encased in its own ice. And it's so pretty. And just to and my daughter, who was I think 6 at the time, pointed that out to me, and wow, yeah, that is really pretty. And and it's just very mindful to to be in the moment and take that stuff in and just notice the world around you and how, and even even now with all the snow and if it's icicles hanging over your head, it's a little scary, but
right. Well, this
is stuff if it's a tree that you're not under and it's got snow on it, you can just notice how that coating is.
Yeah, very pretty. But the thing about it is, I guess I wanted to be mad, and I definitely felt like everything was bubbling up. But I knew, I was in between exits. I didn't even really know what exit I was at. I think of texting you. You're like, where are you? I'm like, I have no idea.
Well, I was trying to
You were
like
trying to
find out what's going on with the traffic, but I didn't know where you were. You're like, oh no.
But that's the thing, it wouldn't have even been reported. It really was people who had stopped. It was a 2-lane, highway. That was it. Who didn't go any further because they were waiting for it all to come down. And you could be mad at them, but they really did a good thing.
Right, yeah.
Because that could have really, really hurt somebody, I think.
Exactly. And very
and it
right?
causes that kind of thing, causes accidents, right? Because you're like swerving. Yeah,
exactly. So so and having a mindful practice really helps you be focused in the moment and just kind of like really. And I was explaining this to my daughter the other day. Like, look, unless a tiger is actually staring at you on the road, there's usually a solution or a fix to whatever.
There's not. You just have to stay there and wait.
Well, that's the solution, right? Like the solution is like I can't change this, right? Like accepting that you can't.
Right.
Change
that's what
it.
I kept saying. I can't change
accepting that you can't change it is very important. So that you have to be able to do that. And then not thinking like, what if this, what if this, what if this? Like you just kind of say, this is the situation I'm in and what needs to be done right now. So you probably called your son and let him know. And
I figured it out. And
I was stuck in traffic too. There was this 2-lane road that of course they've closed 1 lane. So of course, that means that everyone's got to take turns going in the other lane, which backs up traffic for like 20 minutes. So I was like, what, I'm not doing this. And I pulled off that street and I tried to find another way. And of course, Waze just kept redirecting me back to that street. So I was like, I wasted like 20 minutes and I would have been fine if I had just stayed where I was. So, so there you go. So it's important to just kind of take a breath, calm yourself down and just kind of stay present and not spiral out about what's going to happen, because that really worrying like what's going to happen. I have to do this, like being stuck in your plan, which is really where we're headed with all of this. Like you can't be stuck in a plan, because if you're stuck in your plan, all you're thinking is, oh my gosh, my plan. I have to go to the next step in my plan. Whereas if you just stop and take a breath and just approach it calmly and presently and saying, okay, this is the situation now. I'm accepting this situation calmly without judgment. Without judging that this is a bad thing that's happening, or that this is even an annoying thing or an inconvenient thing that's happening. This is just where I am right now. Where do I go next? So you have to be able to deviate from your plan and go to the next. So we do the next right thing.
So we changed the whole plan, and of course, as soon as I got the whole plan changed, we started to move. Yeah. So I called my son, and I was like, listen, like I'm going to leave this up to you. We can even be super, super late for our next thing, or you can just, you're on the bus, you can just come home. And I was calm in my tone. It wasn't like, figure it out now, Yeah. But I knew whatever he chose, I'm going to have to go with at this point.
Because you gave him a choice.
Because I gave him the choice. He actually chose to go to the thing. So he went back to somewhere warm and he waited for me and I got him. And because he made that decision so nicely, I realized part of it was because I was calm as well. I rewarded him and we kept with our plan in the sense that we always get a treat before we go to our next thing.
Sure.
So we got our treat and we were super late for the next thing. I just didn't really, you should say, Mom, we're going to be so late. I'm like, it's fine. We just need to get there safely. And if you're there for, 45 minutes, this is the path that we chose. If we deviate from it now, like when people get into accidents, that's when people get frustrated. We don't want to do that. So we just kept going, and he was calm about it, and I was calm, and really the rest of the afternoon was pretty smooth. And I just didn't want him to go to the next thing and be all like frazzled, because that's just it just makes the next part of your day and their day so
Well, yeah, I mean, being calm and present really, it takes that out, right? It takes that panic out, because what are you panicking about? You're present. Panicking is about what's going to happen next. If you're just always present, you say, okay, what do I need to do in the next moment?
Exactly.
Right. And that actually is a really big help when we teach the kids too, because you go in with a plan and the kids aren't having that plan today. So you have to be able to drop that plan and go to another plan.
And that happens a lot.
Especially with kids.
I just don't think that there's anything more important than your safety, like ever. Like there just can't be an activity more important than your safety.
Yes, teaching children is very dangerous.
It is dangerous.
It is very dangerous, and we always want to be safe when we do that.
But no, I just don't think anything, is more important than you getting somewhere like calm, cool, and collected. Because even if it's not something that happens when you're in the car, you have to think about staying calm, like when you're going to that thing.
Right. And if you had a plan for the day and you have, weather is interfering with it, you have to be okay with dropping that plan. Like for an example, we had tickets to see Anastasia at the local theater, and it was like the last night. And well, I guess that's on me for getting tickets for the last night. But so, and of course, it was, I actually forgot about it, and then in the middle of the day, it was like, oh shoot, we're going out tonight. And of course it's snowing. I was like, we're fine. And we get in the car, and we got dressed, we got in the car, and I started driving.
That was a rough night.
I drove 2 blocks, and I was like, nope. What? Sorry, Jessica. I just say no.
You do.
So I was like, nope. And I just and my daughter was totally fine with it. She's like, yeah, I don't want to drive in this either.
Of course not.
Safe,
of course not.
So we went home and we stayed safe, and maybe I would have made it there fine, but I wasn't going to take that risk.
Right.
Is it worth is it really worth it? That I'd seen Anastasia at the local theater.
Listen, you're in charge of your safety. I'm not saying you should call out of work every single time you think that it might snow, although I've been there,
Well, if you think it might snow, that's a little, but if it's actually snowing and you can't, and the roads are not safe, what can you do? You can't get there. So
I agree.
Work the best you can.
And here's the thing, and if you're listen, my boss is going to get mad at me or blah, 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 listen, you can't control how your boss is going to react and what's going to happen. You can only control how you're going to be, and being on the roads, I think, feeling unsafe. Listen, sometimes if you get caught in it, there's nothing we can do. I've been there.
And sometimes you just work for a dick, and they're going to get mad at you for living your life, but your job is not worth dying over.
I think that you have to always assess the situation the best that you can. And that goes for anything, not even weather related. Being sick. Should you go into work sick?
You should never go to work sick. You really shouldn't.
Listen, if you just have a cold and you've had it for a while, it is what it is. You can't stay out for, 10 days.
Well, you can't stay out until your cough is all better.
That's what I mean.
But no, but if you're actively sick and you have a fever, you shouldn't be around people. Really inconsiderate.
I know someone who told me, someone who went in because they didn't want to use any more vacation days. And I'm sorry, life sucks, but they were very sick.
So when I was practicing law, I would go into work unless I was really dying. You know, I'd gone into work I'd dope myself up on Dayquil, and I'd go in, but it's really if it's if I was throwing up, or I was doubled over because I was in pain, then I would call out. But I would go into work with a fever, but now after living through a pandemic, no, I will never do that to people again. That's just rude.
I think it's just I can't imagine. I guess some people say you're short staffed, and there's people who call me my stomach hurts, and they'll call us you can't do that. You should make all efforts to figure out what's wrong with you. And
today we were teaching kids, and we had one kid who was legit sick, she was going to the nurse, and but when she said she didn't feel well, suddenly everybody else had a tummy ache.
Exactly. I'm gonna go to Domino's now.
Everybody else had a tummy ache, but then we brought out the toys, and suddenly everybody else
felt better. Yeah, no, we're not using that as an excuse. But listen, you're an adult.
So the point is, be mindful of your limitations, right? So I mean, if you can't go to work, you can't go to work, and that is what it is. Right.
And then whatever your policies are, I'm sorry, that's your policy. Life kind of sucks, I've been there where you're counting your days. I don't know, it sucks, and you just have to sort of
So I mean, look, life happens, and you have to be able to deal with it calmly. So the way to do that is practicing mindfulness a little bit every day. Even just like, taking a minute to just take stock of your surroundings. Like, what do you notice? What do you smell? What do you see? What do you hear? And just take some time and just focus on those things, even if it's just for a minute. And then you can do it for longer and afterwards. So, and as you do that, you learn to see mindfulness in other things. So you say, like, so when something happens, like snow interrupts your schedule, you can look at it calmly and presently without judging it, and say, this is the situation and this is how I need to handle this situation. And without judging it and without worrying about how others are going to judge you, like, you're able to handle it better.
I know that our next snow day is going to be a remote day where the teachers post work on Google Classroom and the kids are expected to do it. Yeah. And I have already said ahead of time, I already did my remote learning for like my lifetime. I'm not going to stand over them,
Yeah, nor should you have to.
And my kids were like, well, maybe graded, blah, blah. I'm like, we will deal with that later. We're not going to stress about that now, but I'm totally fine with them having busy work, like no problem with that. But, I'm taking myself out of that equation.
So speaking of homework, so here is your homework. So in addition to just practicing your daily noticings of things around you, however you like to do that, you are going to, the next time your schedule is disrupted, probably Friday, because, we're supposed to get a bunch of snow. But whenever that happens, or whatever disruptions you get in your schedule, take a deep breath and just, without judging it, assess your situation and see what the next right thing is to do, and try to approach that calmly and see if mindfulness helps you.
You might have to try a couple of things. But with finding what's mindful, you might not be mindful to other people in the house. And if I'm speaking directly to the moms now, we're just probably going to have one of those winters where we have to get the 6 a.m. call. But let's be thankful it's not a phone tree where you have to go find the next person.
I never had the pleasure of a phone tree, so glad. So what's mindful to you is not going to be mindful to the next person, but mindfulness is paying attention in the present moment without judging it. And while that looks different for other people, the practice of it is the same. So whatever it is that you find that you want to notice that without judgment, and that's being mindful.
Right, and just know that this too shall pass. I know you probably hate me for saying that because it's so cliche.
It is very cliche.
But it is really true. It's the one cliche I'm going to have to throw out there because everything really, it just does pass.
Actually, so when my daughter was 4 and she was in preschool, and the parents would talk to the teacher because she's not my daughter, but I hear other people saying my son still wants to sleep in the bed with us, right. This one won't potty train, all these problems that you have when you have a preschool child. And she was wonderful. She would always say, this is not going to be a problem when they go to college. Right. So
they're not going to walk down the aisle, not potty train.
Exactly. This is not going to be a problem when they're in high school either, so it's I always thought of that, because it's this is not going to be a problem forever, which is a better way of saying this too. So it's snowing a lot now. This is not going to be a problem in May.
Maybe sometime along the line we'll have to do mindfulness cliches.
Oh, that'd be fun. I love cliches. And
I know, but they're not really good to hear in the moment. Because sometimes you're like, of course you're going to tell me that. They're just some that make me crazy. The two shall pass actually is not one that I don't like, and I actually like that one. Because it just sort of reminds me.
I actually love cliches.
It does bring me back to the present, is what I'm saying. You're right. This will pass.
Cliches always make me smile. I like hearing, you plan and God laughs. That's a good
man plan and God laughs. That is actually the best one.
Or women. I'm trying to modernize it,
Man
why did men get to plan? Men make terrible.
Man plans and women laugh. I like that.
Well, no, why do men get to plan? Men are terrible planners.
Yeah. And maybe at some point, the government will realize that, but I always say, smart women.
Politicians are bad planners too.
Yeah. We have that's a whole other can of guacamole that we're not going to open up today.
That'll be, so we're not going to promise, but there might be another time where we talk about that.
Everybody have a great day. Stay mindful.
Yep. Namaste. Stay warm and safe.
Bye-bye.
Bye.